And joining us is Dino Scaros, a Trump strategist and author of Stop Calling Them Immigrants. Dino, good to have you on the program. I think a lot of people can appreciate the idea of trying to have a chilling effect of stopping people from crossing the border. But before implementing the zero tolerance policy, wouldn't it have been a better idea to check with DHS to see if they were ready for this?
Yes, absolutely. Good to be here, by the way. This is an interesting issue because I'm glad you separated the two notions. I am absolutely thrilled, not just happy, but thrilled with what President Trump is doing overall regarding immigration. I think he's been the best president in the past 100 years on immigration. However, I do agree with you that this is one area which is unfortunate because it was indeed ill prepared and it led to the unfortunate separation of parents from their children. I did not agree with that policy, although I overwhelmingly support and agree with Donald Trump's plan to curb and stop illegal entry and stay. And just to clarify the other attorney's comments, often we hear the word immigrant commingled with every foreign-born person, and that is not the case. It is very important to distinguish between immigrants and PHIs, persons here illegally, and also legal non-immigrants.
Right, but a lot of these people who were crossing the border, who were separated, they were fleeing violence. They would essentially qualify for a status that the United States has always protected. But putting that aside, isn't there an argument that, yes, it's fine to have a policy, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, but if the governance of that policy is not sound, if there's not coordination between the political strategy, the political aims, the policy aims, and the people who have to implement it, the policy aims don't really matter.
Well, you're right about that, and here's the problem. See, take me, a Trump supporter. I can criticize specific decisions and specific policies. And I was the first to say that out of all the things Donald Trump is accused of doing, half of them which he never did, another 30% which are taken out of context, you then strip it down to a very, very tiny subset of things I think he did wrong, and I think this is one of them. I think it was ill prepared. I think it was done hastily. But the problem is people are also not being fair about it. They're calling it cruel. It was not cruel because it was not done intentionally. Nobody wanted to permanently separate parents from their children intentionally.
Well, it can still be cruel even if it was not intentionally cruel. I mean, the fact that these kids were separated from their parents and some of them were younger than 3 years old and they're essentially kept in cages, sure, nobody intended for that to happen, but certainly their experience was a cruel one.
Well, it was a cruel one. I agree. I'm the first to agree, but I would liken it to a building owner who has a fire hazard and people unfortunately burn or even die, and you say, what a cruel building owner. I would say no, that is a poorly planned situation and there was bad judgment, but it's not cruelty. My point is that this specific instance I disagreed with from the start, but there are a lot of people who are using it as fodder to perpetuate open borders and sanctuary cities, which I think are crazy. And I applaud the president for trying to combat those. So we should not separate this one bad decision, which I agree is a bad decision, from the president's overwhelmingly great focus on illegal entry and stay, which must be combated because it is outrageous to support open borders and sanctuary cities in America, not to mention a violation of the Supremacy Clause.
Well, the president has also talked about improving U.S. security, but how can we improve security, even if somebody agrees with that, if the DHS computers are so bad that they don't communicate with each other?
Well, then that would be like saying Obamacare should have never gotten off the ground because the website failed in the first week. The problem is intellectual dishonesty. When people want to bash a policy, they will look for every little thing. Just like the wall, they will say, oh, well, people will find a way to get, it's like they'll say, oh, the same people will say, we want gun control. And they'll say, well, you can't say some people will have guns because it'll still curb some bad people from having guns. Well, a policy like the wall by itself will not cure the immigration problem, but it will do something along with many, many other versions, solutions, which I point out in Stop Calling Them Immigrants. Taken together, those I think would be effective if the nation would only get behind that open borders and sanctuary cities are insane, then right. We can all work together and we can criticize when it goes wrong, well, such as in the case of
good luck with that. I don't think we're going to have that discussion anytime soon. But Dino Scaros, a Trump strategist and author of Stop Calling Them Immigrants. Dino, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.